boys and we're doing fine, so pour me another. We got
That's right, we're good old boys and barroom buddies. These are stories about Charlie and me. You know who I am. And all the stuff we did in the past. Some of them are true, some of them ain't. But if they ain't, they ought to be. Because if I'm lying, I'm dying. Thanks for watching.
Cheers. Well, I was driving home from work today and saw a couple of dogs, mating. And that reminded me of something. Isn't it funny how things trigger our memories? Well, yet it's another rendition of If I'm Lying, I'm Dying. So, speaking of which I was saying, that memory just jogged in my head. I went to old Sam's Town Point to have a couple beers and maybe shoot some pool and shoot the shit with Diane and Miss Penny, rest her soul, she was still alive. And who did I see there at the bar? Charlie. And I don't know why he was there. He was drinking his beer and stuff, but he was supposed to be on a date. So I said, hey, Charlie, what are you doing? Weren't you going out with that city girl you met downtown at 6th Street yesterday? He said, yeah, but I had to cut it short. I'm like, well, what happened? Didn't you go out with her? He looked me dead in the eye and said, yeah, I went out with her. We went out to eat, and then I took her to old George Ray's place to kind of brag on my cowboyity, which Charlie liked to do. He used to like to take girls to George Ray's. George Ray had a nice spread. He had some cattle and sheep, and anyway, he had a nice spread. So he was walking this girl around, and all of a sudden, one of George Ray's dogs was mating with another dog, and that old gal said, look at that. How does that dog know that it's time for her to mate? Well, Charlie, being the guy he was, he says, well, they smell it. The good Lord has a smell. When the female is ready, the male smells it, and he knows what happens next. She's like, oh, okay. And then Charlie says, so we kept walking around, and all of a sudden there was the ram going at it with a sheep. And she said, is it the same thing with all animals or just farm animals? And Charlie said, well, no, the ram smells the female. The female has a scent, and she's ready to mate. She goes, oh. Well, lo and behold, they kept walking, and there was George Ray's horniest bull going at it with one of them cows. And she asked the same question, and Charlie said, well, yeah, it's the same thing. The male smells the female and knows it's time to mate, and they go to town. And she says, ah, well, then she looked kind of bummed out. So Charlie said, what's wrong? She goes, oh, I think it's time to take me home. Well, Charlie, being the gentleman that he was, and I say that loosely, said, all right. So I said, what happened? He says, well, I took her home. I said, did she give you any kind of explanation? He says, yeah, funny thing is, she said that she hoped I'd get over my stuffy nose. Ain't that weird? Well, I just grinned up a storm and think I explained it to him, and he was a little pissed off. But hey, that's how it happens. And if that ain't a true story, it ought to be, because if I'm lying, I'm dying. Till next time.
Now after all we've done, it's a wonder we're friends. But old pal,